Doctor Who, Season 12, Episode 4, Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror.
Dun dun dun!
Thanks for peeking there, Madrock.
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
Rip
That
headphone
was
users.
a pathetic crap. I really liked this episode.
It was okay. It was nothing groundbreaking, but it wasn't offensive. Like, there was nothing really offensive in it. Like, there's nothing that goes, that was
Save the
particularly woke. There was, like, no wokeness as far as I could tell. Like, but it was just sort of okay. I mean, it was inoffensive. I mean, nothing groundbreaking, but inoffensive. I mean, given what we've dealt with for these past two series, it was sort of okay. That all right. That was the thing that happened. Nothing left an impact, but it wasn't. It didn't make me mad. Didn't annoy me in particular. I mean, there's a little something that I think while Tesla does require some he deserves some attention and whatnot, but like both sides of that argument had their merits. Like, Edison was a jerk. Okay, I'm not gonna
He was.
yeah, I'm not gonna get past. I'm not gonna do that. And yes, like what he did to that elephant was wrong, and all the things taking the patents and putting it under his name or something was like, okay, that's pretty scummy. But he did have a point in that practical applications are important to research. Pure research is good, but having at least some of your research be practical that you can put into, you can sell to pay for your pure research. Like, your out of the box weird things Tesla would make. You need somebody working on making tires better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they addressed that in the episode, though, and they actually a few times are like, okay, Tesla is terrible with his money. He's terrible with the whole.
But the thing was, Graham was the writer's mouthpiece for this. Like, he's giving him the business, and it's like, well, yeah. I mean, Edison was he was a bit of a jerk, but his keeping the lights on by actually doing research to make sure that the lights stay on that's important too. I mean, it's slower and it's maybe not quite so visionary as Tesla, but that kind of research is important too.
Yeah.
Although I did have one qualm about it. You could tell he's British. You could tell Edison was a British guy.
He was trying just a little too hard.
He pronounced specific words, particularly patent, which is the British pronunciation of it, when an American would have pronounced it patent.
Yeah. Yeah, there might be a few dialects that do that, but not the dialect he would have had.
No.
Yeah.
No. The one he was going for was way too. They do not pronounce it patent.
Yeah, I don't know what Edison sounded like. There's probably are recordings of him, but
Also, his accent fluctuated from New York to like almost a more southerner, not like southern, like southern, but like it started drifting down further south in New England and then back up again.
Yeah, something sort of mid-Atlantic and then sort of whoa, gotta get back up. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It was starting to float a few times there.
Yeah, I can't really. Yeah, I can't really say anything bad about it because, like, when I do a British accent, it wanders like crazy. I
Ship
imagine like
fare,
this.
good sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what my accent. It's mostly I'm guessing it's mostly RP, but some other stuff might creep in from time to time that doesn't make any
My,
sense.
my problem is even when I'm naturally talking, my accent fluctuates
Yeah.
without even like thought on it. So I mean, naturally my accent jumps around to different countries even.
Hmm. Well, what I've heard is basically nobody can tell where I'm from. Like they're just sort of they hear my voice and like who don't know where I'm from. It's usually Midwest because I other than a few words, you can tell in a few words. But
Yeah, you have a few trigger words, so to speak.
yeah, yeah, that
It's
it's like
kind of like the guy who played Jim Parsons, I think his name is. The dude who played Sheldon in Big Bang Theory.
yeah,
He has he has that generic American accent,
yeah.
but you can still tell based on certain words that he's from Texas.
Yeah, and you got this but yeah, and so which is nice in some ways because for the most part it doesn't like I can
Like past
basically
you.
I can say oh I have basically have the American equivalent of RP except
Yeah,
for just a few words you can tell, but it's not
yeah,
enough that anybody would be unless they were listening very carefully or knew me for long enough would know anything about would have heard any of that. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, back to the episode and off of voice acting. There's there's not a lot to it. I mean, it's very you know sort of
It is going back to more traditional New Who stories. And that is what I appreciate about it. It is, you could take this episode and put it into any of the other doctors and it would work just as well. Like,
yeah. It's just
it's
sort of
not, plus, I am a fan of the historicals. So the fact that one, they got their history right. I even did check like Wikipedia and one other like biography site on Tesla just to make sure like the facts like coincided and stuff. So I didn't like do a deep dive of it, but at least it seemed pretty legit as far as that goes. And I appreciate that they're giving Tesla the attention that most, especially like I get it now that they've been drawing more attention to the other side of history, but generally speaking, throughout most people's lives, it tends to be the other side of history that's told, just like Columbus founding America, that all of a sudden now it's, you know, indigenous people. In this case, Edison, who was a dick, and he actually did like snipe patents all the time, and he would get the patents off of other people's ideas who the patents weren't polished or whatever, and they needed to be fixed, so they couldn't actually get the patents. So he would take those ideas and patent them himself by polishing them up.
yeah. He was absolutely cutthroat in his business practices, but
And
the
yes, you are right. He he was a businessman, and that was it made him a dick because most businessmen are dicks.
well,
That's
it's an assertiveness. It's a needing because when you run a company and you're responsible for helping keep food on the table for that many people, not only your own money, you know, keeping yourself fed, but also keeping all these other people that you take in on you know, on the payroll and working and keep your company growing. You tend to, you know, you tend to see things as I want to, you know, I want to make some money to keep this place going, and so yeah, you're going to prioritize things you can sell because
Yeah,
you're
but
scared of reaching out too far. You know.
yeah, that that's I understand that side of it, but he was also still a total dick. Like with what he did to Tesla, he totally trolled him with, "Oh yeah, I'll pay you this." I think it was $1,000 or whatever he said it was, and then Tesla totally just worked his ass off, and then it's like, I'll give you $10.
Wasn't like a $10 raise?
Maybe, but at the same time, there's the difference between he already did all that work. He should have gotten the bonus as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, you it's it's also we have to always be careful to say, okay, putting yourself in their shoes and trying to think of, okay, yeah, they were a dick, but were they a dick for the reasons that not right reasons, but like why they were, and yeah, he was just extremely wanting to grow his business, grow his name. He was an egotist in that regard, and it is, and if you haven't heard, I think it's actually he actually filmed it, but did they mention the elephant?
I don't think so.
I don't think they did.
Okay, well, so
Peter would have
Edison
had a
had
field day.
DC, um, and
Direct current. Yeah.
yeah, direct current. The problem with it is that you can't really send it very far, and uh, yeah, uh, yeah, 1903, female Asian elephant who was killed by electrocution. Okay, see, yeah, current organization demonstration organized by Edison during the War of the Currents. Historians point out that Edison was never at Luna Park. The autopsy took place 10 years after the War of Currents. Uh, mm-hmm. See, okay, maybe that was wrong, but uh, okay, that may have been an apocryphal thing that somebody said he did, but he didn't actually do. Uh,
No, says
the story of Topsy fell into obscurity over the next 70 years, but has become more prominent in popular culture. Probably the film of the event still exists in popular culture. Thompson and Dundee's killing of Topsy has switched attribution, with claims it was an anti-alternating current demonstration organized by Edison during the War of the Currents. Historians point out that Edison was never at Luna Park, and the electrocution of Topsy took place 10 years after the War of the Currents. So that may be the Topsy story, maybe something that's not actually Edison, but uh, so he wasn't as that may have been an actually not him. um, but yeah, it was just it was and it was a inoffensive little story that just sort of it was a it was a basic Doctor Who episode. I mean, it wasn't
mm-hmm.
nothing. No, this was like this was a writer. This is basically this is the kind of thing you would hand to a writer and say, okay, we want a basic Doctor Who episode. This is I don't know if this is his or her first episode, but 1 second, let me check if this was their first episode. But this is it's very uh, because this is Night of Terror. Oh, come on. Where's TARDIS? You son of a... Yeah, I'm trying to find... Well, here, maybe this will help. Okay, Nikola Tesla. I was hoping to get the TARDIS wiki thing, but it just... See, written by Nina Mativier. Never heard of her before, but that was actually... Yeah, but it was a... Yeah, it was... I wouldn't be surprised if that was... if that was their first foray. If it wasn't a knock you over sort of thing, but it was a decent...
It was a good episode in which, within a string of last season and the last episode, makes it a really great episode comparatively.
Yeah, it's this would pass as a filler episode in one of the earlier Doctors. Sort of, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's not, it's nothing that will. It's not Blink or anything. It's sort of just.
Also, again, yeah. I love the historicals, so that's another draw for me. I know you don't really like the historical stories.
It depends on the historical stories. It's more on whether the writing is interesting. Like, I don't really care historicals one way or the other. They can be good, they can be bad, but just like, is the writing good? And this writing was
so far. I think honestly, the worst historical we had so far was the one with the Ninth Doctor. The one with I love a happy medium. I like that quote, but it was a fun.
Are You My Mummy?
Yeah, the episode was horrible.
I like that one. But...
No, because it is so historically just like none of it had any. It wasn't even a genuinely historical story.
Oh, well, then don't classify it as a historical. It's just sort of happened to be at the time. They weren't teaching any history in that one. Anyway,
Jones was the most historically inaccurate, like just off the rails.
But yeah, actually, Nina Metiver, she wrote this episode, but she was in the script and continuity department for It Takes You Away, which is the one with the space frog. She was a script editor on that. And The Woman Who Fell to Earth, she was a script editor on that. So, not exactly... I mean, The Woman Who Fell to Earth was okay. It wasn't amazing, but It Takes You Away, like, wow, did you make it better or did you make it worse? Was that what we got? Was that actually kind of lifted up out of whatever it was in, or did you make it worse? But yeah, as a first script that she straight up wrote, it was okay. There was nothing. It didn't go super woke. It just sort of had a couple of interesting people in history. Didn't do a whole lot, but just sort of inoffensive.
Yeah, I know. The aliens didn't really do it for me.
Yeah, I got.
Jack loved the aliens. Okay, that was like his favorite.
The Scorpions look cool, but the Queen was kind of
You know what she reminded me of? During
the Rachnos.
I think the Rachnos. It's the one where with the when Catherine Tate came in as Donna Noble. Yeah. All I could keep thinking was, oh, you changed your skin color.
Yeah. Hey, maybe they're
spiders to scorpions.
Maybe they're like distant cousins.
No, that's a totally different thing. But you know who she was?
Who?
I'm not going to even try pronouncing her name because her
Aniji
last name
Mohindra.
is, yeah, but she played Rani Chandra in Sarah Jane Adventures.
Huh.
She played one of Sarah Jane's companions, basically. She played the girl next door. Well, actually, across the street. A budding journalist wannabe,
Ah,
like journalist in training.
but yeah, not that I think she did a bad job. It just sort of, she did a fine job. It was okay. There's nothing wrong with her performance. It was just sort of the way she kind of had that sort of movement always reminds me of the Arachnos, and just like, I have it, you know.
No, they're totally distant cousins.
I did find it kind of an entertaining parallel where, you know, they kind of did the thing of, oh, the alien bad guy is going to be an allegory for the human bad guy, because like they were basically doing what Edison did, where it's like they're taking other people's, in this case, other people's tech, other races' technology, and unlike Edison, they didn't know how to work with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the parallel doesn't quite work because Edison actually knew what he was doing. Like he wasn't
Yeah.
like he wasn't the genius that, oh, I made 10,000 inventions. Like, well, you polished them and you took them from your workers and whatnot, and you all that stuff is all under Edison. But it's not like he was stupid. Like he knew what
Yeah.
he was doing. Like, and I imagine without him, a lot of those patents wouldn't have come across anyway. Like, even if
Yeah.
they were given the same resources somewhere else, like he probably had a hand in actually making some of these things work. But so the
Or at
parallel
least
doesn't
giving
work
them
quite as
the,
well. But
or at least giving them the means to make it work.
yeah,
Like a lot of these, patents cost money. They cost, they have to have proof of concept. They have to actually be able to show something for it.
yeah,
When
and you got to have all the lawyers to go file the patent lawyers to go file the law for you, and that's much cheaper when you can do it in a big company where you only need you're only producing one or two patents every once in a while, and you can send, oh, patent lawyer, here's our next thing to go patent, and then he can go run that patent, and so all these people get basically the free patent lawyer from Edison so long as they work for him and give him the company. The company gets the rights, and but the company also takes care of all the patent work and make sure and gives support to those people so they can achieve these things, and that they wouldn't have been able to achieve without the support and all the people that Edison brought together. So
and
not
they did at least humanize him. He wasn't like the big bad corporation in this one, because he did have that when the guy died, he's like, these are my people, and why the hell would I be killing them? I knew this guy, I had dinner with this guy, now I've got to call his family and say sorry, he's dead.
there's all this.
So they did actually, humanize him and made him not like just the corporate monster.
Yeah. And also, the bigger the company gets, the more sort of distance the guy you get from the actual people doing the work if you're the head of the company. So like Disney, like back in the day, like before Disney really started getting big, and they moved out, because I was watching a thing from Defunctland last night. It was talking about a big party that was thrown after Snow White came out, and it was a huge success. Well, they kind of covered after that as well. Like he in the beginning, like he knew everybody. Like he had a Walt Disney had a personal touch with everybody. He knew everybody in
Mhm.
the office. He knew everything that they were doing. He could set wages for them based on loyalty, what they do, the quality of the work, the output of their work, all that, and he could personally know what everybody was worth. But as they went up, and it became harder and harder for him to do that, and eventually they ended up with the unions coming in, and that just completely divorced him from the people itself. Apparently, Edison at that point was still the workshop was small enough that he knew enough of the people that it still mattered as much as it did to him. But yeah, they humanized him, and he as much as it's not a terrible job, but like the parallel isn't exactly spot
Yeah.
on, but you know, yeah,
I gotta say though, the Doctor's been kind of inconsistent.
in what way?
So why didn't she erase Tesla's and Edison's mind like she did with the others?
Well, she didn't tell him anything new. She didn't give him anything new. Like, what's good grief, what was her name? Lovelace. Well, Ada, whatever it was at the time. Um, he had to remove her memory because she saw World War II. She saw the
Yeah.
future, and so she had to go back and clear that so that she wouldn't, you know, she
It
wouldn't
wouldn't change
remember it.
her.
Yeah, it would keep her on the right path.
And
Tesla and Edison
and
didn't.
Tesla, they didn't really have anything besides her tech that they had no idea how it would work anyways,
Yeah, it was
because that
essentially
was
magic.
and even I mean Graham even said it. Yeah, go ahead and tell them about this. They're gonna think you're as barmy as Tesla.
Yeah,
So like that's not gonna do anything, you know? There's no reason to erase it.
Hmm.
But it's been noted that she's stopped being quite so bubbly. I mean, she was totally bubbly at the beginning with, "Oh my gosh, it's Tesla," but then she was fangirling. But she's been becoming more serious in this season.
it would
Not
be
quite.
nice for her to establish a personality. It's like it would be nice if she had a personality of some kind, like something that you know is fixed and you understand that personality. It's like okay, you can predict what she's gonna do. Like 11, if he sees a fez, he's going to put it on his head. River might take it from him and shoot it, or was that? No, that was his mother-in-law that took it and shot, and then River shot it. But
Yeah.
what is that?
That
Was
was
that
the
no? That was the
Stetson.
Stetson, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was a
The
Stetson. But
Fez River just shot it off his head.
yeah. Well, they also did the Fez, I think. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, he he has things. He's a little ADD in that regard, and that he's easily distracted. In some when it's really important, he's laser focused. But like if it's not immediately, I've got to do this. Like he'll be silly and weird, and you can predict what he's gonna be, and he has a distinct flavor to him. 13 doesn't really have a distinct flavor. Like she was, I mean, kind of in that she was kind of just like this, awkward aunt trying to be cool but really wasn't. And if they'd leaned into that pretty hard, like that would have actually been maybe an interesting personality type. Like, you know, she's 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 trying to be cool but she really isn't. And like she's trying to be woke and fam and do all this, and it's like, and they made fun of that a little bit, and they'd had fun with her, and just like, she's constantly getting the eras wrong. Like she tries to be really hip, but like she's always wrong for the era. She's like a decade out or something. Like, she tries to, like, she goes to the 2000s and she says, "Well, it's radical, dude." It's like, 90s? Dang it, I'm out of decade again. And moved on and made that a habit or something. Just do something with her. Give her her own personality. Give her her own quirks. Just, it's so frustrating. She's just nothing there. But maybe I'm not seeing the personality. It's just like, at least if it was a personality, I could decide whether I don't, I don't like the non-personality, but I don't know whether I would like her personality because we don't know what that is. But yeah, I just hope the next episode we get is, we continue on the,
I think they've slowly been improving as they go, like this season, except for the hiccup last season, the last episode.
Orphan 55 was a big pothole. It's just like, Spyfall was a little better than last season. Orphan 55 was a gigantic pothole. This was okay. Maybe not quite as good as Spyfall, but it was decent. It wasn't bad. It wasn't offensive. Though Spyfall had a couple offensive bits in it, but it's just like, here's even. Here's sort of neutral ground. This is the sort of episode, and this is also what she kind of missed with this episode as well, is these types of episodes where it's bland. It's not like spicy in any way, but it's not bad either. It's just sort of, this is oatmeal. It's not bad. It's just sort of, it's decent. This would have been a great opportunity to really, this far in, you still need just show off her personality somehow. Decide on what her personality is and put it on display. Because in a bland episode, you can have them show off their personality, and it'll brighten up the episode and build the character. And it's just sort of stayed bland, which is okay. It was better than, it's better than the kick in the teeth that Orphan 55 was. But, it's just, this is also not a bit of an opportunity for that. But that comes down to Chibnall and Whitaker not really deciding on what her personality would be. Because they won't lean into anything. It's just supposed to be so generic that nobody can decide whether they like her or not.
Well, no, the comics actually have improved that. Like, the comics actually gave her a personality.
Okay, what did they actually give her a personality as? What was the personality supposed to be?
I'm not, because I haven't read the comics.
Oh, okay.
But
You just heard people say that it gave her a personality.
yeah, because I've heard a lot of, I'm part of a Doctor Who group and like roleplay group, and a lot of people have had the same problem, that her her quote unquote personality is kind of very flat, like very generic, and she isn't really just the doctor. She's a doctor.
Yeah.
And so it's apparently the comics have given her an actual personality to go with that.
Yeah. Have we seen? I wonder what it's supposed to be, because if the comics are doing a better job of showing her personality, then maybe we should switch what the writers are doing. It's like, okay, you're in comics, you do here.
Funny because some of the role players that I've dealt with, role playing her character, they do a better job.
What do they generally go for with personality?
Kind of a cross between Levin and Osgood. Like that puppy dog type personality of that puppy dog ADD type thing, but as fangirl. Like she's a fan of like everything. She's just like, oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Maybe they don't want to give her personality to play it safe so they don't offend anybody.
Yeah, I think that's what the problem is. Because I agree. I think that's what they've been doing. They've been like trying to keep it so PC that they're just piecing everybody off.
Yeah, it's like having a politically correct comedy club. It's like, what's the point? It's like, you know, you can, but it's just, it's so boring, and it doesn't do the job comedy is meant to do. It's comedy is supposed to be the court jester, the one trying to make everybody laugh at things that are really not funny, but sort of to try to relieve the tension of the people and say, oh yeah, kind of open things up, open the Overton window a little bit, and let people sort of laugh at things that they wouldn't normally laugh at because they're told by a comedian, and you've got license to sort of laugh at the things that, oh, you shouldn't laugh about that. But you're allowed to because the comedian is there, and that's their job, is to let you laugh at things that, might be serious, might be dark, that you don't want to laugh at, but, or to point out things that people in charge don't really want you to point at. And so it's like, why don't you just say if it and don't worry about the PC so much? Just write a good story. If people get offended, guess what? People are going to get offended. You're actually being more offensive with some of the things you're saying already. So, I mean, why not just go for the gusto and have fun and write good episodes? And then if people get mad, well, they get mad.
People are, offended because they aren't, they're making it, people are getting pissed off because it's too PC. People are getting offended because the story doesn't actually have a story behind it.
Yeah. And yeah, you're always going to make somebody mad. Okay?
Yeah.
You can either, like, the people who had an interesting statistic is like only like 9% of people actually identify as feminists in the UK. The number's a bit higher in the US, but it's like 9% last time I heard. Okay? So you're going to write your story for 9% of the people. Okay?
Yeah, but the thing is, that is not feminism.
Yeah, I know.
Real
feminism? Yeah, I know.
That's not feminism, and I'm kind of offended that people think that's what feminism is.
Yeah, I know. Well, I know that it's like this is talking about because people are dropping the label because of newest wave intersectional feminism, which is probably what these like 9% of people, like a decent chunk of them are. Well, and there's probably a few of them that don't know anything about intersectional feminism, and it's like, oh yeah, I think this is right. Yeah, they don't have any idea of what these people actually believe. They just sort of go, oh yeah, I mean that, and they mean something else, but like 9% believe it. So like, so maybe not even all that much of them. So maybe 3% of people, and like 6% are just saying it because they're like, oh yeah, I believe in equality and rights between men and women, and they don't believe in all the crap that comes from the intersectional types. And so you're writing for maybe 3% of people. Everybody else is just so done with you that it's just like, and people are getting, I think this might have been a couple years ago that they did this poll, and it's just like, so this group of people is shrinking in terms of influence and such because people are getting more and more annoyed by them. So
call it like it is. They're feminazis.
Yeah, I was just using the phrase, they use that, and they know I know what what I'm talking about in this regard. But yeah, people like that, nobody likes you. You are crushing everything down because it has to fit this thin little strip. And if we can twist anything you say into something, you know, you know, to authors out there, don't there's a poem, Rudyard Kipling's "If," and it's like, have your words, twisted by knaves to make traps for fools. You know, they're knaves. They're people who want to twist your words into something so fools think, oh, that person's racist, and then the knave will just stick their hands on their hips and say, yeah, look at me. Look how woke and unracist I am. Which I think, honestly, the people in the intersectional, like, people are some of the most racist, sexist people you will ever see.
Yeah,
Because,
yeah,
like, they have this,
because they
black
get all toxic masculinity, which I'm not saying it doesn't exist, because
Oh, it
there can be
does.
But
toxic.
all masculinity is toxic to them. You cannot.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah.
They just claim that it's like female supremacy, which is just as sexist, or it's like
Yeah, it's just as
racism
sexist. You're right.
exists in all racists.
Oh,
Racism exists to all racists. You can be a black racist. You could be a and you
anybody
could
can be a
a
racist if they prejudice
woman.
against people based on the
See,
race.
we just all have to accept that humans are pathetic in general.
They are. I am speciesist. Humans suck. They are parasites.
Yes. Oh, let's see. Yeah, I'm not a misogynist. I'm a misanthrope. It's like I hate people. I hate all people. Not.
Yeah, yeah.
I hate all people equally.
Yeah.
I got that from Q. Picard once called him misanthropic.
Yes, I hate all of you equally.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just there's some of the, and I think that the funny thing is these intersectionals also, like, they're the reason they think everybody is racist is because they're projecting. Like,
Yeah, because they're the racist ones.
yeah, they're projecting, and if I had a daughter, I would tell her to, if she ever had a intersectional sort of feminist guy asking her out, run as
Yeah.
far as you can, because those people, like, how long, it's just a ticking clock until one of them turns in. Those people with that ideology tend to be scumbags,
Yeah.
wimpy little scumbags, and, like, yeah, no, run the other way.
For a douche. They tend to be douches.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's why I generally stay away from groups, because yeah, I get it, there's some good people there, but a lot of the more outspoken ones are total assholes.
Why you stay away from what?
Why I stay away from groups.
Oh.
Well, there is a certain amount of assertiveness that you need to climb ladders and organizations and companies that tends to make people who aren't you think you're a bit of a jerk.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just,
And
there's a difference between assertiveness and taking that way too far. Like, there's degrees of it.
yeah,
Because
and
you have to be a little bit of a jerk to get up there, but you can go too far with it.
yeah, and like making up things like the pink tax, which doesn't exist. I've done research on it. It's like, well, women's deodorant is more expensive than men's deodorant. Well, yes, that's true, but it has like 10 more ingredients in it.
Although they do put a luxury tax on tampons and stuff.
Which is stupid. I agree there.
It's like
It's a luxury item.
yeah, it's a luxury not to bleed through your pants.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Ugh.
yeah, enough of our our anti-PC rant here. But
It's the new Star Trek.
yeah, but yeah, when we're dealing with Doctor Who, and this is probably the reason she is so bland, is that they might see that as a misogynistic sort of personality to give the first female Doctor. It's like, just give her a freaking personality. Oh, she has a weakness. Oh, they think all women have this weakness. It's like, no, women are people. They have strengths. They have weaknesses.
Yes.
They're not perfect. You know, I don't care what you say. Women aren't perfect. They're human beings. Men aren't perfect either.
Well, he's a Time Lord, but still.
Yeah,
I mean,
but they have personalities like people.
she's even giving her strength, though.
Yeah.
Her strength is her blabbermouth.
Yeah,
That is her only, like, legitimate strength right now, her blabbermouth and her sonic.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, 10, when he was coming out of regeneration, is like, I certainly have a gob. He was like, because he was just motor mouthing his first like 5 minutes of existing and being conscious. He's just like, he just would not stop talking.
And blinking stepped into this. No, wait, that's Lion King.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like, be your own person. Don't be this, you know, so bland, so generic that nobody knows who you are. You know?
Yes.
It's the problem of a lot of the sort of these sorts of people's writing is that they, you know, we can't ever say women have flaws. It's like, women have flaws.
Everybody has flaws.
Yes.
Flaws are what make us perfect.
Yeah, without flaws, she's really boring. Like,
Yeah.
11's
Yes,
ADD was
so.
fun because he was like, he owned it, and it was funny and it was silly, and he completely went into it. But then every once in a while, he'd hit it with that serious tone, and you realize, oh, he's having fun until he starts getting serious.
Yeah.
Then everybody needs to get the brown pants. Because if
see,
11 has gotten serious, everybody needs to go get the brown pants.
Yeah, you see, the thing is, women are not Mary Sue's.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, they don't know how to write women. Like, for as PC as they are, they don't know how to write women. It's like, women have flaws. They have some of the same flaws men do. Like, sometimes some flaws are more men, but women can have those same flaws as well. And, you know, some flaws are more common in women, but they have flaws. They have strengths, they have flaws. Run with it. Pick one and go with it. You know, she's out of touch. She's a blabbermouth. She's a fangirl. She's out of touch. You know, she's a decade out of her, you know, the way she talks. Like, you know, that would be fun. It would be a fun running gag. Like, she's always trying to be hip, but she's like a decade out. You know, it's like,
well, that's how the 11th Doctor was. It's like, I'm so cool and you're really a geek.
Yeah, it's like, but they do it with such panache that it's fun. Own it. You know, if you're gonna be a blabbermouth, be a blabbermouth. Be a motormouth, and just constantly talking. It's like, will you shut up? You know, and just like every once in a while, like she just keeps talking, and then like somebody tells her to shut up because I need to tell you something, but you won't stop talking. And like something like really obvious, like there's a warning signal on the TARDIS, and like Ryan is over there watching this panel, and he sees something red flashing comes up, and 13 is just motor mouthing about something or other, and she just won't stop. She's like, Doctor. And he's like, Doctor, Doc. And he's like, and she just won't stop talking about whatever she's talking about. Doctor, there's a warning light. And then she goes over there.
Or even that thing that they do in the cartoons where it's like, hey, dude, the thing's on fire. Thing's on fire.
Yeah,
And
that's the
it's
kind
like,
of cartoonish thing you could do with that.
holy
There's
shit,
so much you
it's
could
on
do with
fire.
motor mouths.
It's like, holy shit, the thing's on fire. Why didn't you tell me? I was trying to tell you for the past 10 minutes. You just wouldn't shut up.
It's like, and that plays into the Doctor's character because the Doctor never shuts up. She would just be an extreme example of it. Like, all the
Yeah.
doctors won't shut up. I mean, some more than others. Like 11 wouldn't shut up. 10 wouldn't shut up. Like 9 and 12, not as bad, but like if they got on a roll.
9 was a little too brooding to be like a blabbermouth.
Yeah.
He did have his moments where he would like chatter, but he didn't really chatter much. Because he was that emo brooding, that was his type.
Yeah, but like all doctors to a certain extent, they like to hear themselves talk. And if you'd made that hers, like she's constantly talking, just won't shut up. It's like that would, if they'd gone and made it extreme, that would have been fun, that would have been interesting. But they like, it's really inconsistent. Like, or she'd been, we just had a brooding, so you couldn't have another really brooding character. You needed something a little to balance it out. And so,
and I mean, she's already got that bounciness, which I mean, she already has that kind of not exactly fun, but that silliness. But the problem is they don't let her like just roll with it enough.
Yeah, she doesn't own it. It's just sort of like she's fun. She's fun and bouncy for like the first like couple minutes she meets somebody new, and then she just goes down to I am just a bland piece of toast.
That's her thing. She's just got a really severe case of ADHD. It's like, first 5 minutes. Oh my gosh, it's something new. Cool. Oh, okay, I'm done.
But then she doesn't like get distracted by something else. Like she just sort of falls into this sort of boring sort of like her personality shifts from like the first couple minutes she meets somebody to actually doing things. Like she doesn't seem as excited like as she goes along. Like, but I don't know. It's give her a personality and stick with it. Give her strengths, flaws.
Make her have a cybotic arm.
No. You could give her something weird. She's had basically the normal Doctor, sort of equipment, just the sonic. And that's basically all she's had. If she had something weird as well, like a funny hat or, goggles that, I know it's a bit like the sonic shades, but she could have the sonic screwdriver or something. She could have something fun.
She does have goggles that she wears a lot. Like whenever she's
the
in
forging goggles she made when she was making the Sonic, but it's just like
she wore them again this episode.
Oh, yeah.
When she was in
okay,
building.
she does have that, but it's just like there's just so little to work with there. But anyway, I think we've ranted on about how 13 just pick something. But maybe they've learned something, and the rest of the season will all be Teslas.
Yeah,
or maybe slightly better. I don't know, but
I mean, the thing is, they can't just suddenly get better. They have to build up from there, because this is the same problem with the second that Michael Bay Ninja Turtle movie. They already fucked it over so badly that they couldn't just retcon the entire last movie. They had to build up from it. So they had to work with what they had and just grow it into something better. Because the second movie was a lot better than the first, but they couldn't just suddenly change the turtles' appearance and change this and that. They had to work within the lore that they had already created.
Yeah, and they probably got all these scripts that for this season were probably all sent out to the different writers around. The script prompts were sent out to, oh, you need to work on this, you need to work on that, and so if there were notes, they had to sort of come and sew them together at the end. And okay, we're gonna change this and change that. And they may have been working on these even while the last series was airing, while 11 was airing. And then they like, oh well, we need to change some stuff, and maybe they did take some stuff, but certainly not on Orphan 55. Like that one, somebody may have just stamped their foot and said, no, this is exactly the way I want it. But yeah.
I'm pretty sure that one was just a copy pasta because they just like took the script and they dropped all the pages on the floor and had to rearrange it and like, okay, shit. This is page 3. This is page 12. Okay, we'll put those together. Page 5, that goes somewhere in the middle. That's what it looked like.
Yeah, and the whole like, and I was thinking about this the other day on Orphan 55. Another digression, but nobody's watching this anyway, so I'm just going to have fun.
Yeah.
The thing with it was, okay, we pointed out the plot hole in Orphan 55 with how did they get all the way back to the base while there was the only way to get there fast was the transporter, but they had to take a car out there, but it took them less time than it took to take the car to get back. It's like, one thing that you messed up on was having your monsters in the light. Okay? That was one of your major mistakes. Just have them walk down the tunnel. Okay? You don't have to make any new assets. Just get a bit of tunnel. I'm sure those exist in BBC Studios. There's tunnels. You can use those tunnels. I'm sure they have, like, sewers and abandoned train lines and that sort of thing. I'm sure they have those sets already kind of sitting around. You just have to dress them up a little bit, and what you could have done is to get back, instead of her running over and doing the face thing and then realizing that he breathed oxygen, they could have had to go past a nest of sleeping ones of these, and the thing recharges in the area, and they're like, oh, then you get that, and then you find some physical evidence of what happened, instead of the doctor doing a mind meld, which is really that's a freaking shortcut and a half.
Yeah.
And then you wouldn't have had to have the car there, and you could have still had them in the shadows, and you could have had all these little side tunnels, and you never know when one of those side tunnels or a vent or a grate might pop open and another one of these things pops out. You would build the suspense instead of going, oh yeah, they're there. Those, Power Ranger foot soldier rejects are over there. It's like
Putty patrollers.
What?
Putty patrollers.
Yeah, but I was just being more generic because, somebody might not know what those are. That they might go, oh, foot soldiers. Okay, the weird guys that they send out before the monster. But but yeah, there was
continuity error because you just said, well, nobody's watching this anyways, and then you're like, well, somebody.
Yeah, well, if somebody does, then yes.
I mean, they watch the videos, they don't watch the stream.
Not even that, really. I mean, especially the reviews. Like, nobody watches the reviews. Like, we get like 1 or 2 views a review.
Yeah, well, it's probably worse now thanks to Kappa.
Yeah. But anyway.